I'm a little pissed off.
Oh, there you go.
I take that back. I'm really pissed off.
This is the report. This is the truth that they don't want you or I to see. And when we finally do, we're going to realize we're not broke. We're just being bled dry. If you're new here, my name is Dan, and this is Unfiltered, where we cover the stuff that Ottawa hopes we ignore. And we do that raw, real, and relentless. And listen, if you've been blaming yourself for struggling to keep up as of late, stop. The government's been stacking the deck against us for decades, and it's time that we finally call them out. Let's start by talking about the truth that they try to bury in the footnotes, the spreadsheets, and the announcements, and the Team Canada. The average Canadian family earned $114,289 in last tax year. You want to guess how much of that went to taxes? $48,306. That's 42.3% of your income gone. And that's more than you spent on food, clothing, and shelter combined. And in fact, since 1961, the total tax burden on Canadian families has skyrocketed 2,784%. Did that register? 2,784% that it's gone up since 1961. And don't tell me that that's inflation. In fact, the consumer price index rose about 925% in the same time frame. Average incomes went up 2,186%, but taxes, they lead the pack at 2,784%. Let that sink in. You're not behind on life. You, as a Canadian, you're getting buried in taxes.
The tax bill has grown more rapidly than any other single household expenditure, unlike luxury items or even just basic necessities that many are still being forced to skimp on. You basically cannot miss out on taxes. And according to the Fraser Institute, the average Canadian family spent a whopping 42% of their income on taxes in 2024, more than on housing, food, and clothing combined. In 2024, the average Canadian family with an income of nearly $115,000 paid more than $48,000 in total taxes. That includes, so we say total taxes, income tax, payroll, health taxes, sales taxes, taxes on liquor, tobacco, fuel, carbon taxes, etc. Putting all the different federal, provincial, municipal levies together, the total tax bill increased a staggering more than 2,700% since the first year of this report, 1961. So
Scott Hertz from CTV says you basically can't miss out on taxes. Yeah, no kidding. They come for you before you even see your paycheck. Look at it this way: gas, groceries, booze, cell phone, some form of the carbon tax, property tax, payroll tax, GST, just never ends.
So, Scott, where do we go from here with this information? Is this going to be putting pressure on the government to take action?
Well, ultimately, the report just points out it's up to Canadians themselves to decide whether or not they get good value for their tax dollars. So it's ultimately just a good gauge to know how much of your money, in fact, goes to taxes. So the reasoning behind this, according to the Fraser Institute, ultimately a sizable increase in incomes, even with no changes in tax rates, a family's tax bill would have still increased substantially over this time. But also, the average family faced a tax rate increase from 33.5% in 1961 to more than 42% in 2024. So, as I mentioned, this is good information for Canadians to have when they're seeing their own specific budgets. But ultimately, it's up to Canadians themselves to decide whether or not they feel they get good value for the taxes they pay, Renee.
That clip from CTV made my blood boil when I heard it. It's up to Canadians. It's up to us to decide if we're getting good value for our taxes. Excuse me, but we didn't choose this system. But I believe every Canadian is trapped in it right now. This is the government's game, and they're stacking the deck against every Canadian. If this is hitting home, we need to share this video to get the message out. And please subscribe to Unfiltered so that way you don't miss the next one. We're not slowing down. So here's a good question. You want to build a life. You want to build a home. You want to start a business, save for your kids, or save for your retirement. Well, good luck, since the number one expense isn't housing or groceries, but it's taxes. Every hour you work, you bust your ass, nearly half of that goes to the government. And somehow they still run deficits? I don't think this system is broken. It's doing exactly what it was designed to do and bleed us dry and convince us that it's our fault. Let's shine a light on an unexpected variable. I call it the Canadian Revenue Agency fear factor. The CRA has powers that would make a loan shark blush. They can seize your pay, freeze your bank account, slap a lien on your home, making it impossible to sell or refinance, all without a court order. Sweeping powers. They don't want you to see this, but the CRA targets you based on risk assessment, looking for non-compliance. They'll call you, then they'll send you a letter, then they're in your books, not just yours, but your spouse's too. Penalties start at 5% on what you owe, plus 1% per month. And if you're a repeat offender, that only goes up. It jumps to 10% and 2% per month, up to 50% of what you owe. And that's before interest, compounded daily, at rates as high as 8%. They can garnish you your wage, freeze your bank account, slap a lien on your house, seize your vehicle, and even intercept government payments that are set to go to you. Look, this isn't just about numbers. This is about stress, pressure, and guilt. Families are falling apart because they think they're failing, but they're not. We're all fighting a system that, frankly, as Canadians, I think is rigged against us. Let's say you make $120,000 in a year. Half is gone before you even buy groceries. What are you building? What are we building? And how are we supposed to get ahead? You're not, and that's the whole point. What if you're drowning like many Canadians right now, feeling overwhelmed by it all? And I've got some friends who are feeling that way right now. Look, what I'm about to tell you isn't financial advice, but maybe some options to consider that you haven't thought about. Learn the CRA rules because knowledge is leverage. Try to cut down on non-essentials. Slow build an emergency fund if you can. Contact your member of parliament and the MLA. Demand tax reform. Connect with us here at the Unfiltered community for support. Sit down with a trusted accountant and be honest. Manage your credit score. Build a real budget and review it often. And talk to a financial advisor that you trust. And if life's becoming overwhelming, don't bury it. Reach out. There is help out there. You're not alone, and you're not crazy. And to manage your credit score, which you really need to manage at times like these so that way credit can be extended to you if you need it, check the link in the description below for a company called Borrowwell. I trust them. I use them. Take a look at them.
Here's where it gets even darker. That 42.3% is based on today's tax bill. But what if the government actually had to balance the books instead of running the massive deficits they run today? What if they had to cover everything they spend with real taxes today? Well, according to the report, if governments had not run deficits and instead taxed Canadians for every dollar they've spent, the average family's tax burden would instead have jumped to over 3,000% higher than 1961 levels. I'll wait for you to let that sink in. They call it the Balanced Budget Tax Index, and it tells us that deferred taxes, today's deficits, are tomorrow's tax hikes. And that day, my friends, is coming like a runaway freight train.
This is the final warning shot. Look, if they taxed us for every dollar spent instead of running deficits, the average family's tax burden would be over 3,000% higher than it was in 1961. That's the freight train headed our way. And they want you too tired, too broke, and too distracted to see that freight train coming. If you've ever felt like you're sprinting on a treadmill, falling further and further behind with every paycheck every month, now I hope you have a better understanding. This isn't about left or right politics. It's about you. It's about how much more they think we can take until we've, as Canadians, say enough. Here at Unfiltered, we're just not telling the truth, but we're trying to build a movement, and we hope you're going to join us. If you're still here, it means it hit home. Coming up on August the 5th, we're dropping a special episode called The Community Unfiltered. 3 topics chosen by you, covered by this community. So make sure you hit subscribe and comment with your topic, because the more voices we have, the louder we collectively as a community can get. Please share this video. We need to get this message out to as many people, to as many Canadians about this tax problem we have in this country as we can. Thanks for hanging out and having a coffee with me. My name is Dan, and we'll see you in the next video.